Number 94, Councilman Foote.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Let me pass these out. I asked Chief Davis to supply some up-to-date crime statistics that for this year, year-to-date, calendar year, year-to-date. It's pretty alarming, and I think it's worthy of our discussion at this meeting today. We've talked a lot about the crime and the police issue back during the budget period, and we were, I think it was a great move to increase the pay for recruits and help recruiting, because we've got a shortfall in police right now. I think the last number I heard was 102 positions unfilled within the police department. But the crime statistics themselves are quite alarming. I'll just go out some of the highlight here. This was major investigations, crimes against persons, year-to-date through from January 1 through September 27. The aggravated assault is up 57%. Armed robbery, business is actually down 35%. Armed robbery, individuals up 15%. Carjacking, it shows up 217%. Homicides up 44%. Homicides have gotten a lot of headlines lately, as they deserve to. It looks like we're just here we are close to the record for the past 20 years, and we're still in the month of September, 91 versus 63. Then rape and sexual assault up 41%. Total of these categories up 48%. Now, to me, there's a lot of things that contributed to this. I'm sure the coronavirus has an impact on it. The closing of the schools has an impact on it. But suffice it to say that we've got what I think is a crisis situation within crime and violent crime within the city. And the reason I wanted to discuss this is primarily for what do we do when we have a shortfall of 100 officers. We got our investigators are at half strength. And one of the things that other cities have done is take advantage of Operation Legend, which was set up by the DOJ to address rising crime in a lot of cities. And they've had very good success. They've gone into 8 cities at this point in time: St. Louis, Detroit, Chicago, Kansas City, Albuquerque, Cleveland, Memphis, and Milwaukee. In 4 of those cities that I've got information on, St. Louis, they saw a 47% decrease in murder. Detroit saw a 25% decrease in murders. Chicago saw a 50% drop in murders. Kansas City saw a 32% drop in violent crime, 18% decrease in murder. This is with through the Department of Justice Operation Legend program, where they bring in other federal law enforcement officers to help address the crime situation. Mike Hurst is our representative here within the city of Jackson, the Southern District of Mississippi, as the representative of the DOJ. He has reached out and talked to some of the council members about this, with the desire to request through the U.S. Attorney General Barr for assistance and along the lines of Operation Legend, to bring in some federal law enforcement to help reinforce the JPD, which is at this point in time, because of the shortfall, outmanned and outgunned and underpaid too. And I don't fault them at all for that. We've got slots that aren't filled. We've got a lot of people on the streets, a lot of young people on the streets that ought to be in school and other places like that. And I think it's really at the point where we should request, and I'm encouraging my fellow council members to request assistance from the Department of Justice to help us get this crime epidemic, or I'd call it maybe a crime rampage against the citizens of Jackson, and ask for assistance from the federal government to help us get this under control. And that's my thoughts. And any comments from my fellow councilmen were more than welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Foote. 3 things. First of all, I think we've all had an opportunity to talk to Attorney Hurst. One of the reasons why we could not execute signing a letter privately is because we have to abide by our Opens Meeting Act, and any action with more than 3 signatures, with 4 signatures, would have to actually abide by Opens Meeting Act, and we would actually have to have that meeting on the record to consider that. And I think that is something that needs to be considered. But first of all, let me say that one of the things that I told U.S. Attorney Hurst is that I wanted the opportunity to talk with the chief and the mayor to look at how we can specifically direct the federal assistance. I'll give you a good example. One way of helping, Chief Wade, you could chime in, that I think that we will really need as far as federal assistance is having the ATF to come in and having the ATF to go and pick up shell casings and use their resources to run them through APHIS. You know, these are some of the things where we're short because we don't have APHIS right now. And so as far as these shell cases of shells that are all over the city, especially in my where people are just shooting up in the air, the ATF will actually come in and partner. That's federal, and we can receive assistance to help us with some of the resources we really need, which APHIS is American Fingerprinting Information System. Yes. And it would allow us to begin to track down people that are using guns in the wrong way quickly. And I think that we need to have a further conversation to see how they can be directed. I think that one of the things that I would like to achieve is to have some type of unanimous consent when we request for help like that. But I think for Jackson's problem with where we are, that we have to be able to provide some direction, and these are some of the resources that we need, and that's what I want to narrow down and get to. And one of the things, just in having some conversation, with the police department is hearing that if there was federal assistance to help with APHIS and tracking down those guns, shell casings with those fingerprints, because when y'all get them now and collect them, you send it to the state lab.
Yes, sir.
And they go all the way to the bottom of the stack. And that delays them being able to, solve and figure out who's doing what as far as shootings and everything is concerned. And so that's one way that we've identified. And so one of the things that I think that we need to do is to give some specific as far as how we want to direct the resources that come from U.S. Attorney Hurst. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I thank you for that. There are a few things that I would say to that. One issue that I have is that in this discussion of federal assistance, the one person that U.S. Attorney Hurst has not reached out to would be the mayor of the city of Jackson, right? In spite of the fact that I've had several discussions with him over time. And I do believe that the federal government can help us. Let me tell you how the federal government can help us. We can start with the last item that we just talked about with Councilman Stamps. We could use some mental health support. We can start with the fact that Jackson Police Department, in the midst of this, is having to do a catch and release policy. The federal government knows that we are under a DOJ consent decree, which prevents who we can house at Hinds County. They can assist us on that so that we can have more places, more locations that they can step in and house more people during this time. The Department of Justice can help in the way in which you talked. A lot of the shooting and a lot of the gun things and a lot of the carjackings is being perpetrated by youth, right? By people who are not in school, and they can help with that. We actually are trying to apply for not only dealing with the shell casing, our own ballistics equipment so that we can deal with this. And so they can help by what his job is specifically. His job is to prosecute cases. And so he can help move along the docket that is held back, where cases are available to be done. Cases, instead of having this conversation on political means, let's actually move along that docket, because the more people sit there, the less space there are in the jails, the more they have to do this catch and release process. I am willing to have any discussion, but to take this on in a political way and talk to everybody but the mayor. Everybody but the mayor. And when I call him, I have trouble getting him. Everybody but the mayor. How sincere are you when that's the way that you go about it? I have to find out, basically, because people have been honest, because you're sincere about your ward, you're sincere about your residents, that you have to tell me. That's a problem. And so I am ready for any sincere discussion. I am ready for any sincere action. In fact, I think it takes all of us. It takes the political leadership, it takes our faith-based community, it takes our youth leadership, it takes people who provide services. So I am willing to dig my hands in the ground and do whatever it takes. But it can't be just trying to be political, and we have the most political U.S. attorney we've had in our city's history. And I'd like sincere discussion on how we can help.
Mr. Tillman.
I looked at the request. In my mind, we have a police department, public safety. Why can't the federal government come in, sit down with the police department? If they got information, share it with the police department. Come up with a proposal, write it up. These are the needs. If it's more intelligence officers, investigators, more policemen, and fund it. We need people right here to stay, not come in and do an operation and you're gone. We need sustainability. And I promise you that'll work. So come in, sit down with the police department, the mayor, council member, write up a proposal, and ask that it be funded. And we bring our police department up to what that word, up to part, yeah. Sorry. Kind of.
Uh-huh.
That'll work. Give us what we need locally. Give us a 5-year grant, fully funded. Not a 10-year grant, fully funded. You have the equipment, technology, manpower, and it'll work. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, there was one other thing that I wanted to add based on the problem. One of the things that we're seeing, you know, we have to understand that every block is going to be organized by somebody. It's either going to be organized by a positive force or a negative force. And we have young people right now out of circumstance that are not being organized by anything positive because they're out of school, they're walking around, they're not being engaged. And so another thing, since we're talking about data, we can talk about the 62% crime decrease before COVID that cities like Stockton, California experienced because they were able to implement violence interruption programs, incredible messenger programs. The same can be said for New York City and Washington, D.C. And so, you know, U.S. Attorney Hurst, I would certainly like the support to receive grants so that we can fully onboard a program like that, not just in a moment, but going forward, so that we can organize our young people, so that we can interrupt, so that we can learn what they're dealing with, so that we can, if it's a matter of finances in the home, if it's a matter of support in their home, if it's a matter of mental health, if it's a matter of any of those things, we're better prepared to engage and interrupt the cycle that we're seeing in our community. And we don't need that just for a second, like Councilman Tillman said. We need that in perpetuity going forward.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stamps.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the words of Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate Councilman Foote for putting this item on the agenda. I think the real underlying cause of this is that when a man or woman can pick up a paycheck, they'll put down a gun. I think a lot of times we get thrown off about guns or this or that and grants and things like that. But until we get money flowing in this city, until we get economy flowing in this city, many of us have never even thought to pick up a gun to solve our problems because we picked up a paycheck for the majority of our adult lives. And that's just not the reality. Over half of the black men in this city are unemployed. Think about that now. Almost half of the black men in this city are unemployed. And so we have to pursue economic development. We're going to have to pursue the same with jobs. We got to put some wins on the board to create jobs. And so while we're talking about police and talking about these other things, I just believe that if you can pick up a paycheck, you put down a gun. And that's why, it ties into the conversation of the comment I made a little earlier about police officers and firefighters living in the city and city workers all together. Because that's more economy in our city. Because when they live here, they tend to go grocery shopping. You shop and purchase where you live. And so your spouse normally lives with you. So it's not just about the employee, it's about the additional worker. And again, right now, this tax base is paying over 4,000 employees almost $100 million a year to live somewhere else. And so we have to look at every way we can reel in the economy to create more jobs in this city. More laws on guns and more police are not going to solve the problem until we get more money flowing on these streets. Blood will continue to flow on these streets until some cash is flowing on the streets. And there's just the reality of it. We got to get economy back in this city, or this blood going to continue to drench these streets up until some cash flows around here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman Foote, I appreciate you for adding this item to the agenda. Let me say this. We're not delaying and looking into this. Attorney Harris made some specific acts of operation. My return to him is that I would like the opportunity to get with, I think we should have a thorough discussion with the chief and with the mayor as far as what that federal assistance looks like from us. I would like to hear his vantage point of what it all entails. And I think that we need to say, this is what we need. This is how we need the ATF deployed with getting these shell cases, running them through APHIS. And I'm sure that there's more of a list of things that can be done. And I think that we need to have that conversation. And then at that point, once we get that detail of saying, okay, Attorney Hurst, we've heard your concerns. We've heard some of the things that you're willing to deploy. These are some of the things as far as specifics that we need, right? Then when we have that, we come and take action. But we could not, and legal correct me if I'm wrong, but we could not take action on signatures with more than 4 unless we had a open. It had to be public because of Open Meetings Act, and I think it's welcome, and I think that we got to hear from the chief and the mayor on this. Stamps, and then I'm sorry, Chief, you were standing up here for a while. Did you have anything that you wanted to add? Are you good? No. All right, Stamps.
You're muted.
I just had one question for the police department. Pretty basic question. How many police officers didn't show up to work this morning?
Joseph Wade, Assistant Chief. Based on our numbers, we're looking anywhere between 15 to 20. 15 to 20.
Of a total of how many people normally on staff?
So in other words, Chief, I think it's around 68 when you add all the shifts.
Well, we have about anywhere between 44 to 50 in the precincts, but we also have DART, traffic, DUI,
about 68.
our training staff. We have other members that are at work at that particular time, so we supplement it with with those staff members.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So percentage-wise of people who, how many, we can just articulate how many people normally show up at whatever time show-up time is for our staff for the complete police department, and then how many didn't show up today. I think we need to determine some people are talking about blue flu, but I think this is maybe a blue sniffle. Just to see what we're dealing with here.
Well,
Go
right
ahead,
now,
Chief.
based on what I just stated, we had about 15 to 20 that called in on today. It ranged from the precincts to support services, admin, and our detective bureau, a total of 15 to 20. Of course, you know we have 300 police officers, so we do have individuals we're able to supplement those particular beats with that were already at work on special details, so it is not impacting the way we do business. But of course, we do pay attention to those things and make sure that it does not continue.
Well, as soon as we can find out what a list of issues, that people have, so we can work towards addressing the issues. I just find it ironic that the entity that got the raises is going through this. So let's just figure out what these issues are so we can address those concerns that they have, so we can move forward aggressively and start finding the way forward.
All right.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Stamps. Mr. Foote.
Yeah,
Then, Mayor.
thank you, Council President. I just like to thank everybody for their remarks and response to this item, and I think it is a critical item. And if you just look at the numbers, lots of different interesting perspectives and all, but at the end of the day, the numbers are 44% increase in homicides this year and a 48% increase in violent crime. I think that qualifies as a crisis, and my only request is that we seek assistance from the federal government, who's got more money than we ever have, and they got more manpower too, and we need to seek assistance and come up with a way to address this. Otherwise, we're derelict of our duties.
Thank you, Mr. Foote. Again, I think we are going to seek assistance. I think we just have to put together a list of asks of what that looks like. Yes, sir. Mr. Stamps.
Yeah, could I get a memo from the police department articulating what was said about this absent issue? Because I need something. I just want something in writing. Because if somebody, I just want something in writing to encapsulate this response, so we can have some documentation going forward.
Okay, Mr. Stamps, and then also just for sake of clarity, and Chief, you correct me if I'm wrong, the 15 or 20 that didn't come in, that's not one particular shift and one particular roll call at a precinct. This is spread across various shifts and various times of roll calls throughout the day.
Well, as of right now, it's based upon our alpha shifts in precincts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Our detective bureau, support service, and admin. You're talking about 15 to 20 over multiple units and divisions. A total of 15 to 20.
Okay. All right. Mr. Stamps, did you have another question? All right, thank you. Mayor?
No, I want to make sure that we articulate true numbers here, what's going on, and let's get a list of the issues so we can start to address it, because I'm hearing on one side is saying that the issue is not severe. On the other side, it's saying it's extremely severe, and I'm trying to see what's the accurate stuff. That's why I asked for it in writing, because I'm getting some contradicting information. I don't even know how to navigate if I'm hearing several different things.
Yeah. I believe some of it will be addressed with number 90, but I do think that there are some other conversations during budget. Councilman Tillman, Mr. Vice President, said that we need to look at some of the other issues that are affecting both departments, the police and fire, and I think that is a conversation that we have to be serious about having. Mr. Mayor, did you have something?
No, I'm waiting on 90.
Okay.
Is I want to make sure that we get to the bottom of the issue and that people are in the room, because like on our side, we can't make decisions or even, deal with issues if we're not getting true information. And so I need to figure out what's the issues that folks have at hand, and then what's the information on all sides, because I need to determine, is this a training, leadership, pay and benefits issue? Is it a leadership command issue? Is it an overarching command climate issue? Or a combination of which pieces of that. So that's what I'm trying to weave through this thing to figure out where the issues are, because if it's a personnel issue, a leadership issue, a command climate issue, a pay and benefits issue, we just have to accurately and honestly nail down what the issue is and take care of that issue before we lose the fabric of our city. I mean, we're really about to lose the fabric of our city if we don't make some actions, what I feel like yesterday. So we really got to nail down the issues, and if somebody or some group have done something, we need to fix those people.
Yeah.
And we got to figure this thing out, and we got to do it immediately.
Thank you, Councilman Stamps. Look, duly noted. As I said, the conversation is all inclusive. It's going to be questions and concerns about leadership, about pay, about the climate. I think we all understand that we're not blind to that, and I think we're going to touch some of it in item 90. There might be some further conversation that we might have to have in executive session, and I think that we're also, when we get to item 90, we'll hear from the police chief and the fire chief, and as we have continued to hear from the union. So I appreciate you bringing those things up. Let's get ready to go to item 90. Councilman Foote, thank you again for putting this on.